You want to become a better League of Legends player? Well, here are 50 tips that will get you out of bronze, I promise. Starting with number 1, make sure you only play ranked if your Wi-Fi is good. There are so many times where I've played ranked and halfway through League of Legends disconnect. And we all know League of Legends client isn't very good. However, your opinion on that is, so make sure your Wi-Fi connection is stable. If that means restarting your router, do so. Tip number 2, restart your computer. This one may seem kind of dumb, but it's super important as well. How many times does your computer bug out and not respond if you don't restart it? The best solution is to do just that. Make sure you restart your computer before you play a ranked session. Number 3, only play at proper times. What I mean by that is avoid the early morning and late night gaming sessions, which brings me to tip number 4, which is to avoid early morning and late night gaming sessions. Think of it this way, it's common sense. Who plays late night? I'm talking 3 in the morning. And who plays at like 5 or 6 in the morning? Just think about that for a second, guys. You're right. All the tilted players. The regular rabble, the rest of us, we play during regular hours. And for most people that work, this is especially true for the weekdays. A lot of people work and they have to go to bed at a proper early time, which is for me 10 to 11 p.m. at night. So I will definitely not be playing League of Legends on a work day to 3 in the morning. So if it's ranked, avoid those tilted players and play when the rest of the player base plays. And this will help you in many ways, and not just avoiding tilted players. You get to play with people more true to your MMR and your elo. Tip number 5, use the command /mute all in every game. There is no need for you to hear anything and read anything that anybody types in chat. You can do so with pings, especially in solo ranked. Everyone's toxic. I'm telling you right now, /mute all, it'll save you a bunch of tilt and it'll win you more games in the long run. Tip number 6 is to turn off your mouse acceleration on your computer system. On Windows PC, just go into mouse settings and turn off mouse acceleration. The reason why you do this is to train your muscle memory. With mouse acceleration, there is no muscle memory. Depending on how fast you swing your mouse, that's how fast the mouse moves on the screen, and it's not consistent. So if you want to be more consistent with your aim, make sure to turn off mouse acceleration on your system. Tip number 7, use SmartCast. This one is skill dependent, but for most of the skills in this game, you don't need to use Dumbcast, which is to bring up the aiming indicator at all. Just use SmartCast. It makes things much more fluid, and for some champions like Yasuo and Riven, this is almost a must, because without SmartCast, you have just the slightest delay in your cast times and causes you to not be as smooth with animation cancels and other high level mechanics like that. Tip number 8, when in the loading screen, look over all of your enemy summoner spells and think about why they have those summoner spells and how that can screw you over. Tip number 9, never ever type when you're alive unless you are sitting at the fountain. Don't even type to your teammates under your tower while in the lane. I don't know how many times I've died, but plenty of times where I was typing something, whether it's to strategize or to flame my jungler. Just kidding, I never flame. But I can't tell you how many times I've died because I was in the chat interface instead of actually focusing on the game. Also, when you're typing and something does happen, like you get ganked or something, or someone dives you, you're going to be totally surprised and try to use your Q, W, E, and R, but you can't because you have typing Q, W, E, R, and then you die and you're wondering, why did I not use my abilities? And you look at the chat interface and you typed a bunch of gibberish in the chat. So don't do that. Only type when you're either respawning or chilling at the fountain where it's safe. Tip number 10 is make it a habit to look at the minimap while walking through safe zones of the map. This is just to train you to look at the minimap, which you should be doing with your left eye anyways, and your right eye. If I could split my vision half on the minimap and half on the game, I would, but I can't because I'm not Mark Zuckerberg. Tip number 11 is to stand in jungle entrances at the start of the match to spot invades. Don't be one of those players that chills under the tower and lane because you're not doing your team anything good or useful by doing that. Tip number 12, do not fight invades unless there are at least 4 of you standing in the same bush. It doesn't matter if there's 4 of you or 5 of you spread out in the same area of the jungle. If there isn't a concentration of force in that bush and the enemy 5 stack invades you, you're going to burn a flash, and at the worst, someone dies to a first blood. Tip number 13, only invade if you have 5 men, 5 players. The top laner usually has to be present. Why? Because if the enemy 5 stacks that bush and you walk in with a 3 or 4 man, you're just going to lose a team fight. Usually. 14, plop your ward into enemy jungler red buff at around 40 seconds if you are the top lane. This will help your jungler spot the enemy jungler and predict their pathing. Tip 15, leash for your jungler if you are on that side of the map. 16, rotate to your jungler, and this is especially important when it's pre-8 minutes, because at low elos, 1 invade and your jungler dies, he's either AFKing or he's tilted and flaming, and that affects the rest of your teammates, and if everybody's tilted, chances are you lose the game. And if they AFK because they're tilted, well, you just lost the game automatically. So always rotate to your jungler, especially early lane phase. Don't stay in lane, greed for that CS. If the enemy jungler is on your jungler, it's especially in bot lane. If he's on Krugs or something and you're in bot lane and you're getting shoved in, I would just rotate and try to help him out. 17, always use up your ward trinket. Don't let it just sit around. I know a lot of people forget to use it, me myself included. Tip 18, don't go warding alone in a dark jungle or river if there are missing players on the minimap. The key here are missing enemy players on the minimap. If you see all 5 of them on the minimap and they're where they're supposed to be, you can face check all you want because there's no 6th player. Does that make sense? But if you don't see them, then they could be anywhere, including hiding in that bush that you're about to face check. 19, do not face check bushes when there are players missing from the minimap. Tip 20, do not push a lane out past destroy towers if there are players missing from the minimap. You guys see a pattern here? That's right. Check your minimap before you do anything stupid to spot missing enemy players. Tip 21, never send more than 1 player to push a bottom wave out if Baron is in play unless they have an available teleport. In higher elo play, as soon as a key player is missing and spot it in the bot lane when Baron is in play, the enemy team will always push and contest Baron, because by the time that player or players rotate up to Baron, you will already have had that enough of a numbers advantage to secure Baron. Only do objectives with a numbers advantage and if your jungler has smite available. Even if you have a 3v5 on Dragon or Baron, you have a numbers advantage. If you don't have smite, that's still what we call a 50-50 objective. Anybody can auto attack and use an ability and get the last hit on that objective and steal that objective. So make sure you have smite because that deals true damage and it's instantaneous. Tip number 23, buy at least 1 pink ward. Don't be the person that just buys 0 pink wards. Tip number 24, do not use the pink ward that you bought randomly. Please use it for vision control. What vision control means is to either use it to deny vision of an objective or to sweep vision that you know an enemy has already placed it. And use it defensively. Don't buy that 1 pink ward and just place it randomly far into contested territories where someone will absolutely destroy it. You got to save that 75 gold. Use it smartly if you only buy 1 in the game. Another thing with vision is to use this pink ward. If you know you're just going to buy 1 pink ward if you're that player, it's better than not buying a single pink ward in the game at all. A good place to put it is to put it behind those walls next to the walls of your base, where you can go through but the enemy can't, because they can't reach it and you at least provide some vision control. That is pretty safe because it's within the walls of your base. Tip number 25, prioritize CS over anything else unless you will take damage for it. This is important caveat here is if you're going to take an aggressive trade, an aggressive poke for that CS, it's not worth the 14 gold at all because your HP and how healthy you are affects how much longer you can stay in lane and not get killed by a tower dive, and how efficient you are at roaming and following roams. Tip number 26. Experience from minions trumps the gold you get from last hitting. It's actually more important to keep up with levels rather than to keep up with gold. That's super important. I forget the specific numbers calculations, but I believe every level in this game is around 1,200 gold in value. 27. Learn how to CS under tower. If you're pushed under tower, it's not random. There's a specific way where you have to CS properly with abilities and also auto attacks. If ranged minions and melee minions are full HP, it will take one tower shot for the ranged minions, and then you can auto attack it. For a melee minion, you have to auto attack once after 2 tower shots. Tip number 28, time your first back around the third wave. Because the third wave is a cannon wave, and cannons are stronger, have more HP, they're tankier, they're harder to push out for the enemy laner than a regular wave. So if you time your first back around the third wave, chances are you're not going to have many minions miss, because your tower will focus on the cannon first before taking out any of the other minions. And by that time you get back, you'll maybe miss 1 or 2 CS. Tip number 29, do not fight in a large enemy minion wave. And that's like level 3, level 4 or under, because early game enemy minions, especially large ones, are, you can think of them as a second player. They just do that much damage, guys. Trust me on that. Tip 30, the level 2 lane spike. This is when you hit level 2 and you gain a second ability and your enemy still is rocking one ability in addition to all the extra stats that you get from leveling up. This is really important in bot lane because that's 2 players that get 1 extra ability. So that's 2 extra abilities. So level 2 lane spike, also important for solo laners who are assassins with that spike. I could think of Talon as one of those with Ignite. Which brings me to tip number 31, which is to know when level 2 lane spike happens, and that is on the first melee minion of the second wave in solo lanes, and the third melee minion on the second wave in a duo lane, in bot lane. 32, help your jungler against invasions and rotates only if you are healthy and able to do so. Healthy for me is if I'm 50% half health or above, with plenty of mana for at least 1 rotation of abilities. Tip number 33, for those of you that like to play passive in lane, try not to let the wave completely crash into your tower. Don't give up things for free in this game. If you give up free push for the enemy, they're just going to push you in under tower, and you're going to have a hard time last hitting under tower. No matter how good you are at last hitting under tower, you're always going to miss 1 or 2. Also, if they're a better player, what they'll do is they'll take the advantage of you last hitting as a way for them to poke you while underneath your tower. And you don't want to do this. Good players will continually pressure you under tower and poke you down and force you back. If you choose to stay in greed, they will dive you with the enemy jungler. This doesn't happen in lower elo much, but once you get gold and upwards, this happens frequently. Or if you play it extra safe and smart and you just go back to base and not get dove, you'll lose out on all that EXP in CS. Remember, experience, falling behind experience is bad in this game. So what you want to do is, tip number 34, follow up each enemy auto attack on your wave with an auto attack on your own. And that brings me to, again, tip number 35. The reason why you do this is because of the minion rule. A wave will push if it has more minions in that wave. So as long as there is 1 minion or more in that wave will push towards that side. So if you just let the enemy laner continually auto attack and you're not auto attacking, you're just last hitting, well, guess what? They're putting more damage on your wave. Your minions are dying quicker. Their wave will crash into your tower faster. So try to always even it up. If an enemy auto attacks, you auto attack within reason. Don't go for an auto attack if you're going to get traded on. Tip number 36, understand that if you play passive and getting pushed into tower, this means you will lose CS and get traded and potentially tower dived. But this is not too common in gold. 37, understand that if you play aggressive, conversely, and you constantly shove them under tower, you're going to get ganked. Which brings me to Tip number 38, which is my gank rule. Look at the mini-map. If you are the only pushed out lane, you will get ganked very soon. This is especially true in lower elos, because just think of it from a common sense perspective. Where is that enemy jungler going to look for a gank? They're not going to gank a pushed in Darius underneath his own tower. They're going to gank you as a Veigar who's pushing the enemy Talon under his tower, right? Tip number 39, if the enemy laner pushes you in, use one rotation of abilities on the wave and just start following the roam. I know this is a controversial tip because a lot of players might disagree, saying, well, CS is much more important. You should just stay under tower and collect the CS. Well, guess what? You're in low elo. If you don't follow the roam and that roam gets a double kill in the bot lane, your bot lane's going to flame you and they're going to AFK. So it's better in low elo, believe it or not, to miss that EXP and miss that CS and just go straight and follow the roam. Which brings me to tip 40. Do not waste time and mouse clicks to even ping Mias or type Mias in chat. Don't do it. It's not, your laners aren't going to see it. Your teammates aren't going to read chat. They're going to flame you anyways, but you're fine because you're already /mute all. Just follow my other tip, which is to use one rotation of abilities if it doesn't drain your mana on the pushed in wave and follow the roam. So this is a key difference here. You have to remember that if you use abilities and you drain your mana, you can't do a full rotation, you're worthless on a roam anyways, especially when you're not full health. So there's all these kind of little caveats you got to think about, okay? Why do I say you can miss the CS? And why do I say you have to use one rotation on abilities? Is because that'll clear that wave faster. Hopefully you can pick up some EXP as you're walking away, because you have to be within a certain radius to get that EXP. EXP is better than CS and gold. And it doesn't slow you down so much that you are too late to follow the roam. Tip number 41, never follow the enemy roam into the river without vision. You might not encounter this in low elo, but in higher elos, mid laners especially assassins with Ignite, they will bait the follow. They'll push you in, disappear from vision, and they'll hide in the river bushes. And there you come along and you follow their roam without vision. You face check them. What do? You end up face checking them, like I said, and they'll pop all their rotations on you. Ignite, you're dead. So that is the classic bait and switch there. Only follow into the river if you have vision or you have your jungle support. If you do choose to follow the roam, do so safely through your own jungle. Also, only follow if you are half health or over. This is really important. If you are low health, let's say under 50% HP, and let's say you're low on mana, what good are you to follow that roam anyways? At that point, you're most likely better off to just stay in lane CS, right? So that's another caveat to my other tip there, which is to use one rotation abilities. Sometimes if you're too low health, don't do that. Don't even follow the roam, because what's going to end up happening is you're going to die anyways. At that point, you might as well ping MIA, ping, and then just take as much CS and XP as you can under the tower if it's safe to do so, and then recall. Tip number 44, if you are the aggressor and you want to roam, make sure you always push out your wave before you do this roam. I see this all the time where, with my friends actually in silver elo, they'll always roam and wonder why at 15 minutes they have 72 CS. Well, it's because there's always a lane pushing into them, and they're missing out on all that EXP and CS. So if you are the aggressor, you're playing aggressive, make sure you push your wave. You get what's called priority first before you roam. When you go missing from the enemy minimap, you can still create gank pressure. Although it's not as important as in low elo, just disappearing from the map is enough to cause pressure. The higher elo you get, the more important it is, because players are now actively looking at the minimap, and they respect when a player goes missing from the minimap. The next tip, a successful roam does not need to result in a kill. You can use your roam and time off of the minimap to place deep wards in the enemy jungle or anything else, really. Go back to base. A successful roam doesn't need to result in the kill. Tip 47, do not steal your camps from the jungler if that jungler is heading over to that part of the jungle very quickly, very soon. If he is clearing towards bot side, towards Krugs, and he's on chickens, you can go ahead and take wolves and frogs because he's not going to be up there for a while. Chances are he's going to clear his bot side and go for a gank or go for an invade. So you're better off just to be efficient and steal his camps. The worst thing you can do in low elo is to I don't know why you people why you guys do this. I see it all the time. You guys go up to your own jungler and you last hit the camp that he's working on, or you take some of the small chickens when he's trying to go for chickens. Like, don't do that. That's just you're greeting and you're putting your jungler behind, and he's part of your team. Remember that. Tip number 49 is to recall smart. Don't be lazy. I'm guilty of this. I recall in the middle of the lane when I, successfully kill my laner. I recall in the middle of the lane. What happens? Enemy jungle comes, cleans me up. Or you recall just outside the aggro zone of your own tower. Or even if you recall under your first tower with like 1 HP, right? How many times have you gotten dove by a Lee Sin or a Kayn? So be smart. Don't be lazy. If you have to walk to your base to inhibitor tower and recall, do so. Or just walk all the way back. It's better than giving up that 300 gold to a death. Tip 50 is to keep playing ranked only if you win, and never keep playing after 3 losses in a row. This is my personal cutoff because you will be tilted if you lose 3 in a row, and it will affect games 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way down, however many you play. You're not going to be in a good mood. This is especially true if you don't deserve those losses. Like League of Legends, it's half those games you're just going to lose anyways, a little under half. And then the idea is it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. You have a 51% win rate over 1,000 ranked games. You're going to rank up. So do not ever. I mean, for all means, if you're winning every game that night, play 12 games, so long as you win. But as soon as you start losing 2 to 3 in a row, I would call it quits, because that is tilt, and that will cost you more than it will net you. So yeah, guys, make sure you like this content. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I hope these 50 tips will help get you out of bronze, get you out of silver and into gold. Again, who am I? I peaked Platinum 1 as a mid and support main back in Season 7, and I consistently get myself into gold, solo duo every season, at least gold 4 this season. So these are the tips that I apply, and it works all the time. And these are not mechanical tips. I'm not telling you, how to play Yasuo here. These are just common sense tips that if you always apply these 50 tips, you'll at least climb to middle silver. So make sure you follow my content, subscribe to this channel, and if you want more, let me know in the comments. I can go into, let me know in the comments if you want me to go into more detail tips and tricks, because a lot of these things I only brush the surface on. There's definitely more micro play to this. Some of these tips, such as wave mechanics and freezing the lane, all that kind of fun things, and how to actually position yourself in lane. So if you want to see those videos, let me know in the comments as well. But either way, thanks for watching and have a great day.